What's going on, people? This is Shok, and this is the first video I'm doing for December, which is not in the middle of the month or the end of the month. I'm actually doing a video early on this time. Um, and I actually have a few videos I want to talk about, so maybe I'll actually upload those videos today, in the same day, maybe even right after this video. I'm not sure. But along with what I'm going to talk about right now, which is the Game of the Year awards, or more specifically, just the game that won Game of the Year. The next two videos that I would like to talk about, that I would like to do, is one on the Switch and more specifically about the ports that it's supposed to be getting. And whether or not all these ports that it's getting are a good or bad thing. And then the video I want to do after that is specifically talking about Breath of the Wild, because I actually have a lot I want to say about that game. A lot of good points to be made in that video. But in this video, I want to talk about, I know I'm a little late on this, I don't know, I have to be in a particular mood to make videos, so I know I'm late, but here it is. I want to talk about Overwatch winning the Game of the Year award. Now, I didn't watch the awards live because I was at a tournament at the time, so I pretty much just came back home, see which game won in each category, yada yada. Don't really care about all the other categories. Really, all I was concerned about was the actual Game of the Year, which went to Overwatch. Now, let me just preface this by saying, I understand completely why some people may feel like it's undeserving since it's a, multiplayer only game. But at the same time, I think we need to take a step back and think about what the title of Game of the Year entails. And I want you guys to listen to the words that are in that title. Game of the Year. It's the game of the year. And I know you guys are going to be like, of course we know what that means, but I don't think you guys really pay attention to what it actually means. Game of the year. That means, what was the game of this year? That's what that entails. And I don't think a lot of people keep that in mind, because of course, most people saying, oh, game of the year should have been Uncharted 4. But if you think about 2016, if you think about Uncharted 4, was Uncharted 4 the game of this year? Now, maybe you'll say yes for yourself personally because it's the game that you enjoy the most. But think about it. Did Uncharted 4 make a huge splash? Was it insanely, incredibly popular? No. And of course, those are things that that shouldn't be like the only aspects you look at when determining Game of the Year. Of course, we don't want it to be a popularity contest. We don't want the same thing to happen where that Telltale's Walking Dead game won, Game of the Year, stuff like that. Although that didn't even win under those criterias either. Still don't really know why that thing won. I just assumed that Walking Dead was a very popular TV show, so they just gave it to it because it's the most popular pop culture thing that was happening at that time. You see what I mean? But the reason why I am totally okay with Overwatch winning Game of the Year, and honestly, it has nothing to do with the fact that I actually play Overwatch and I enjoy Overwatch. I promise I'm not speaking out of bias or anything like that. But the reason why I'm okay with GameWatch winning Game of the Year is because Overwatch was the game of 2016. You see what I'm saying? And I know I'm not saying anything that's shocking or rocket science, but I just don't think people think about it in literal terms, with the wording. Game of the Year. If you just think about the raw essence of the words Game of the Year, Overwatch clearly meets that criteria. It clearly meets that context entirely. Overwatch was Game of the Year 2016. It was the biggest game. It was the most talked about game. And is also most likely, I don't have any statistics to back this up or whatever, but you'd be pressed to kind of argue against it. But it was also probably the most played game of 2016. Pretty clearly, I'd say so. And you'd be kind of crazy to argue against some console game or whatever that has gotten more playtime in 2016 than Overwatch. Also, remind you, this is on 3 platforms: PC, Xbox One, and PS4. Overwatch came out and completely took the gaming world by storm. Now, of course, I'm not saying everybody plays it, but you could say, oh, everybody plays Overwatch, in a general sense. You're not going to sound too crazy or far-fetched by making that blanket statement. You see what I'm saying? That's how many people actually play the game. But I know there's a lot of you guys out there, You may be the dude bro type gamers. You like the gore and the blood, and you're like, what's this silly, cartoony looking crap? Or you see that's a first person shooter, but it's not just a mindless frag fest. You're confused. You don't understand what strategy it is, and characters having their own unique abilities. I know you can't comprehend all that. That's fine. But the fact remains that Overwatch was the biggest game of 2016. And now, of course, like I said, we don't want to use that as the only quality to determine whether or not a game wins Game of the Year 2016, or else COD would have won a bunch of years in a row, which it used to, back in the day or whatever. But not only is Overwatch incredibly popular, but it's one of those extremely popular games that actually isn't overrated. It isn't. Overwatch is one of those games that it's the big game. Everyone talks about it. Everyone plays it. It's always at the top, not number one spot, but within the top 10 or whatever games being played on Twitch. It's one of those games, but it's actually damn good. And that's a very rare thing, because most of the time, you have these games that come out, everyone flocks over it, and it's just kind of like overrated dog crap, right? Or it's, it's good, but like it's not that good as everyone's making out to be. People need to chill. But no, Overwatch is actually that freaking good. And yes, I know it doesn't have a single player, but here's the thing, right? It doesn't have a single player, but yet Overwatch is going to outlast every single player campaign game that has been released this year. And I'm not talking about just in a people playing it aspect, because of course that's going to happen. It's a multiplayer game. I'm comparing it to single player games, or even single player games that do have a multiplayer component, but they're primarily a single player game. What I mean by that is people are going to talk about Overwatch for decades. You see what I'm saying? As to where all the other games that came out, the only one I could think of that will still be remembered in this great light is Witcher 3, which would have been only the second choice. The second choice I would have been okay with. Haven't got around to playing that game, but I've watched a lot of it. I've seen a lot of it. And I could tell that game is freaking incredible. I still need to get around to getting it. I can't believe I haven't gotten it yet, especially considering it's like $20. But I will get to that game eventually. But Witcher 3, based off what I've seen, heard, based off how I've just seen people so passionately, talk about the game and, all that stuff, that's the only game I can imagine that will still be talked about in 2016 from years on end. Uncharted 4 was great. I enjoyed it. You guys know I played it. You guys know I bought it. I played the online for as long as I could. Had to rage quit eventually because the blind fire is just ridiculous in that game. It's still ridiculous after the patch. I don't want to hear that they fixed it bullshit. The thing that Naughty Dog always has like a really good core concept for the online multiplayer games, and then they just patch things in and do changes that just ruin it and all that. I don't know what happened between the beta and the release, but the release definitely was not as fun as the beta was. That's for sure. But that's a whole nother video. But yeah, Overwatch is the only game. Overwatch and The Witcher are arguably the only games that are going to be talked about from years on end. Of course, Overwatch is going to be talked about, or even not even just talked about, but also played until probably the next Overwatch comes out. And I don't mean like in the sense of an Overwatch 2, but whatever the next Overwatch-like game is going to be. For instance, TF2 was still talked about, heavily played until Overwatch came out. And heck, really, TF2 was still talked about and heavily played, but definitely a large chunk of that community did actually go over to Overwatch. But you guys see what I'm saying? Like, if you think about the words Game of the Year, no game fits that bill better than Overwatch. And of course, you're going to say, oh, well, Witcher is a better game than Overwatch. Well, of course, when you start talking about, which game is better, then we start getting into, subjectivity and all that, more opinionated matters. You could say it should win Game of the Year because that actually has a single player experience, but at the same time, if a multiplayer experience can give you hundreds and hundreds of hours, while the single player experience will give you, unless it's Witcher, it's RPG, let's say it'll give you 50 to 100. That's still a long time, but I mean, if you're still going to be playing Overwatch longer than that single player game, then does one game being single player really matter at that point? You see what I'm saying? Or more specifically, Does a single player game get an advantage over a multiplayer game just for being single player? It's like, yeah, it's great that it offers a campaign, but when it comes to bang for your buck, one game you're going to be playing infinitely for the rest of your life. Another game you might play maybe 3 times. I don't know, and that's probably going to be it. I know that if I bought Witcher 3 at launch, I wouldn't be playing it right now. I probably wouldn't even be talking about it right now. But Overwatch, I could see myself, and a large portion of the community could see themselves playing this game for years on end. Overwatch has just completely taken over gamers in 2016. Competitive and casual alike. And that's the thing. It's hit every type of gamer. Almost every single type of gamer, any level of gamer is playing Overwatch. There are billions and billions, exaggeration of course, billions of gamers at every type of level of play playing Overwatch. Everybody talks about it. When there's an update that comes out, it's huge. The developers, the community, the visit. If you go to some of these Overwatch channels, there are thousands of Overwatch channels doing the exact same content, and all of them have like over 100k subs each. And they're not even unique. You see what I'm saying? They're all literally doing the exact same content. They all have Overwatch in the channel name, and they all have over like 100k subs. It's insane how huge this game is. So again, to reiterate, the game, when you have a game absolutely this massive, it's hard to deny a Game of the Year. And when you have the quality to go behind its popularity, let me make sure I drive that point home. Let me make sure that I emphasize that. Because I don't want it to just be like, oh, well, it's the most popular, so of course it's going to be, Game of the Year or whatever. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, that should be a justifiable merit. It's the most popular, so okay, yeah, I'm okay with it being Game of the Year. No, of course not. Because if, Call of Duty won every year or whatever, of course, that'd be some bullshit and whatnot. But it actually has the quality to go behind it. The game has a shit ton of depth. So much. It's really, and sometimes I confuse people when I say this, but Overwatch feels like a fighting game to me. And that's probably why I love it so much, because I love fighters. I love the Mortal Kombats. I love, Injustice. I love Street Fighter. I love, Smash, King of Fighters, although I can't buy this newest one because it's just too ugly for me, and not just graphically, but also like the animation wise. Now I do know that they have an update coming out that's going to be improving the graphics, if that's not out already. I might have to check it out for that, but as far as the launch product goes, and you guys know I'm not a graphics whore by any means, but that game is it doesn't look right to me. I'm not a graphics whore, but if a game artistically doesn't look right to me, it can have a low poly count, whatever, but even artistically, if the art style is not there, I have a hard time looking at it, and it makes me just not want to play the game. That's how I operate. But getting off topic here. But yeah, Overwatch has the quality to go with it. It's like a fighting game to me, because you have all these characters who are completely unique, and they all have something different to offer to the table. They're all, offer things for people of varying play styles. So it's very fighter-esque in that sense, and there's, counter picking and all that. So it's kind of like a first-person fighting game. That's really how I view the game a lot of the time. Sometimes I forget that Overwatch is a shooter. And that's another reason why Overwatch, really deserves, I was about to say play of the game. That's funny, Game of the Year. Because it kind of goes beyond what defines a shooter. And I know that Overwatch isn't the first of its kind. I'm not trying to say that, it's made this new genre or whatever. But what I'm saying is that it has done it so extremely well to the point where I think it's ascended its actual classifiable genre. You see what I'm saying? Because if someone were to say, what's Overwatch? And I were to say, Overwatch is a shooter, I would feel like I'm mislabeling the game. You see what I'm saying? I would feel like that I'm not giving it a fair classification or an accurate one. I wouldn't feel like I would give it an accurate description by saying it's a shooter or it's a first-person shooter. You see what I mean? And everyone who has played the game understands exactly what I mean. The only people that are going to be confused by that are the people who haven't played Overwatch or played it once and didn't understand that it wasn't just oh, let me just pick any character, shoot at people, just frag fest it up. It's not about that. It's not about the kill death ratios and all that. The only people that my statement was going to confuse are the people who went into Overwatch with that mindset, couldn't understand the true intricacies of the game and all that. But everyone who has played it and has understood it knows exactly what I mean by just saying it's a shooter that's just not good enough. Despite the fact that that's exactly what Overwatch is. You know what I'm saying? So when you have a game that is clearly a genre, but at the same time you feel like it's not doing it justice by saying it's that genre, that shows you how good that game is. And you see what I'm saying? That's the point I'm making here. The game is so good, it ascends beyond its genre. That's how good Overwatch is. It's magic. Overwatch is definitely lightning. I can't imagine a company making a game like Overwatch again. I'm not saying to Overwatch's quality, but like just they got everything just so right. And even despite the fact that they didn't have a single player campaign, it has so much discoverable backstory, believe it or not, to where you feel like there was some type of single player component that you did play, but you actually never did. There's so much lore, so much backstory. The characters are awesome. The characters are freaking amazing. Other than Farah, fuck that bitch. But you see what I'm saying? Despite the fact that it's multiplayer only, they put so much effort into things they did not need to put effort into. Overwatch can easily be turned into a comic series, animated series, a movie series, whatever. They have so much good things they could do with that stuff. There's so much content, so much lore, so many good characters, characters' interactions, the characters' backstories with each other. All of this stuff, it's just great. It's just great. And so, like I said, it's just when you have a game that's clearly one genre, but you feel like you're cheating the game by saying, oh, it's a shooter or it's a first-person shooter. Even if you were to say, oh, it's a strategic first-person shooter, even that doesn't sound right. Even that's not giving the game justice. Because, I mean, Killzone 2 was a strategic first-person shooter, but yet, Overwatch goes leaps and bounds 1,000 times past the strategy that was required for Killzone 2. You see what I'm saying? It's just, it goes beyond more so, I feel like, than, TF2 did. I think it takes it, I can't even say the next level, 5 levels past TF2. Now, to be fair, I wasn't extra competitive in TF2. I didn't play it that much. I had maybe, 50 hours in TF2, which isn't a lot for that game, especially for how much that community plays. But based on what I played, I feel like Overwatch goes even beyond what TF2 had already established. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's pretty much everything I could say at this point. I'm just going to be repeating myself because I just can't stress enough how unique this game is and how, like it's lightning. And what I mean by it's lightning, I can't imagine this exact same effect that Overwatch has created. I can't imagine it happening twice. Because Blizzard did everything so perfect. The characters, the gameplay, the maps, the lore, everything. Even their trailers, the CG stuff they have, all of it is just so well crafted and perfect. I can't think of one complaint I have with Overwatch as a game. The only things I can complain about are some of the blatantly annoying characters, archetypes or whatever, but that's just, a little personal thing. This character annoys me. That doesn't mean, that shouldn't be a dock for the game because the character is annoying to me. You see what I'm saying? Like Junkrat, Farah, whatever, Roadhog's Hook, but those are all, changeable things. Those aren't actual, bad merits of the game or whatever, at least I feel like. But yeah, outside of just personal character annoyances, I can't think of a single complaint. There's nothing wrong with the graphics. Graphics look fine. The art style is great. The gameplay is silky smooth. It's so freaking well integrated and it's just so fluid. The maps are very well designed. I don't know. The game has a lot of content now. Launch it was very skimpish, but or skimpy. That's the correct term. But now it's great. No complaints here. And I didn't buy the game at launch either, so I never even had to go through that phase. I can't think of anything. I guess the only complaint I could make was that it doesn't have a single player, and that's not that when I boot up the game, I'm like, oh man, I'm missing the single player campaign. I feel like I'm playing half a game. It's not that I feel that way. I say I wish I had a single player campaign under the context of, holy shit, this game has such great characters and backstory. I would have loved to have played all this in some type of single player campaign. So basically, all the content they've included within this multiplayer only title was so freaking awesome and so good and so deep that it makes me wish I had a single player campaign. Not that I wish I had a single player campaign because I feel like I'm playing half of a game. You see what I'm saying? So that just goes to show how well crafted and how good this game is. But I've rambled on long enough. Those are my thoughts, guys, and that's why I think Game & Watch totally... Did I just say fucking Game & Watch? I fucking hate Game & Watch. Project M, if you guys don't know why I hate Game & Watch. But Overwatch. I don't know why I just said Game & Watch. That's why I love Overwatch. That's why I definitely believe Overwatch deserved Game of the Year over everything else. It's too big. It has the quality to back up its popularity. It will be talked about for days on end, and every developer in the world wishes they could have done Overwatch. And if that doesn't say Game of the Year, I don't know what the hell does. But that's this video, y'all. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'll see you guys later.